everything on their own, they feel like they can take your power away. You can't take no power from a bitch that built herself. You can never. What you is gonna do is you gonna play yourself out of a real bitch that's gonna stay down with your ass, do whatever. As soon as you do some, now you a weird hoe. Bitch, I'm gonna be a dumb, a weird, tweaking. Bitch, I'm gonna nut the up when you play in my face. Nigga gotta learn to play where it's safe at. It's not safe over here. Don't come playing in the energy that don't need a nigga for nothing.
This is Oninda Romulus, 31 years old, mother of 4, and a woman who told police she did not call 911 the night her kids were shot inside her car. She said she called the devil instead. And by the time this video is done, you will understand how a woman gets to that point and what she was hiding inside that house that nobody saw coming.
It is impossible to make sense of a senseless tragedy like this, but we will do everything we can to seek justice for these children.
Now, before we get into what happened on October 4th, 2025, we need to go back to where this story really starts, because it does not begin at a gas station in Texas. It begins years earlier in Atlanta, Georgia, with a young woman who had just had a baby and had no idea which man was the father. About 12 years before the shooting, Oninda Romulus walked onto a TV show called Paternity Court. The episode was titled Teen Mom, Two Possible Fathers, and she was there because she needed a DNA test to figure out who had fathered her baby boy, Ocario. She brought 2 men with her boyfriend of 4 years, Dwayne Seymour, and a mutual friend named Jeremy Covington, with whom she had hooked up one time while she and Dwayne were on a break. She sat down in front of the judge, admitted she had been sleeping with both of them around the same time, and explained why it went down like that. Now, here is the thing that made that episode memorable, and the thing that makes it even more disturbing to watch today. When the results came back, neither man was Ocario's father. The whole courtroom went quiet. Romulus sat there looking genuinely shocked, saying she had only been with those 2 men and nobody else. But DNA does not lie. Somewhere out there was a 3rd man whose name never came up. And that little boy, Ocario, grew up without ever knowing where he came from. 12 years later, he would be one of the children found shot inside his mother's car. So who was Oninda Romulus before all of this? She was born in Miami, Florida, to Haitian parents, and the family later moved to Atlanta, Georgia, where she went to Alonzo A. Crim High School. After that, she enrolled at Georgia Perimeter College, studying political science. She worked regular jobs to get by, doing catering work at a Mexican restaurant called Willie's, working the register at McDonald's, moving packages at UPS. Nothing about any of that sounds unusual. She also had a period where she tried to make it as a rapper. The stuff she put out was about grinding and surviving and not letting people hold you back. One of her lines went, "Just dreams in my head, I push through the silver while they all put mama for me. I don't got no time for no hoe, that's just how the game go." It never really took off, but it gives you a window into how she saw herself back then. She was someone who felt like the world was against her and she was going to push through it anyway. The rap career faded, and she started telling people she was a tax preparer. That turned out to be a cover story for something much more serious, but we will come back to that in a moment. Her personal life during these years stayed complicated. She ended up with 5 children in total from different relationships, and the men she got involved with had histories that should have been red flags. One of them had been convicted of trying to kidnap a prosecutor's father, and another one later got arrested for murder. That is not regular bad luck, but a pattern of who she was choosing to be around and what kind of world she was living in. Her own record in Georgia was limited. In April of 2022, she was arrested in Fayette County for driving while on drugs, failing to stay in her lane, and having marijuana on her. She pled guilty to the DUI, and the rest got dropped. Child Protective Services had also been to the family at least once, though those details are sealed. In May of 2025, she moved the whole family to Porter, Texas, about an hour north of Houston. She told people she wanted a fresh start and more peace, but she moved somewhere she had no family and no support system, just her and 4 kids with whatever she had going on behind the scenes. What she was putting on social media at that time looked very different from someone who was struggling. She was posting about everything she had bought for herself as a gift: a bigger house, a finished salon, a car roomy enough for all her children, and land she had purchased in Haiti to build what she called a mini mansion. She was performing wealth online, showing the world a version of her life that looked like she was winning. But mixed in with all the flexing were posts that told a different story. Around this same time, she wrote, "This past week, the devil has sent his minions to irritate and annoy me. I'm just glad I ignored them, because the way I'm heading, it's jail or hell." At the time, her followers probably scrolled past it as regular venting. Looking at it now, knowing what came next, it reads like she already knew how this was going to end. Early in the morning on October 4th, 2025, sometime before 5 in the morning, Oninda Romulus put all 4 of her children into her white car and drove roughly an hour south from Porter down to Angleton in Brazoria County. Ocario, her oldest, was 13. Amara Chappelle, the youngest, was only 3. Kyle was 9 and Treviel was 8. These 4 young kids were in that car with her in the middle of the night, and none of them had any idea what was coming. Somewhere during that drive, or once they got there, Romulus shot all 4 of her children at close range inside the vehicle. At 4:48 in the morning, a call came in to the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office, and deputies got sent to a gas station on State Highway 288 in Angleton.
We need multiple ambulances.
When the first deputies pulled up to that gas station, they found Romulus standing outside the car. She was calm. She wasn't running, not crying, not panicking, just standing there. Inside the vehicle, all 4 kids had been shot. Ocario was in the front passenger seat. 3-year-old Amara was in the back. Both of them did not make it. 9-year-old Kyle and 8-year-old Treviel were also shot, but were still alive, and deputies worked on them right there at the scene until medical help arrived. Both boys were flown by helicopter to Memorial Hermann Hospital in Houston, where they stabilized.
We are thankful to report that an 8-year-old boy and a 9-year-old girl are now in stable condition.
Thank you for joining us here at 4. I'm Lisa Hernandez. That mother, identified as Oninda Romulus, is sitting in jail with a bond of $14 million. KPRC2 reporter Mario Diaz spoke to neighbors and has the latest on this investigation. Mario.
Yeah, we spoke to people here in the area of Angleton, and let's correct one quick thing here, that this woman is in Brazoria County. She allegedly committed a crime in Brazoria County, but she is not from Angleton or Brazoria County. But investigators say they are still working this case, very much so because it just happened and because what they saw. It's a fresh case. You have 4 children that were shot, 2 of them killed. All of them are siblings, and they were discovered right here at this gas station approximately 40 miles south of downtown Houston. The alleged trigger person in this case, their mother.
No kid should have no parents in their life or, have to deal with something so tragic from a parent.
Angleton resident Ashley Reed reacting to the shooting that took place minutes from her home at the Falcon Express gas station, where new 288 meets with the old 288 north of Angleton. The shooting resulting in the deaths of a 13-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl, while their 8-year-old and 9-year-old siblings, a boy and a girl as well, are recovering. Startling information emerging about the alleged shooter, 31-year-old Oninda Romulus, listed as the mother of all 4 children. According to investigators, after shooting her children, she pulled into pump number 2 at the gas station and called 911 while filling her tank. She paid $56 and waited in her white Audi for law enforcement. Within minutes, 2 sheriff deputies arrived and Romulus was placed in handcuffs with no resistance. The officers then provided life-saving measures to the 8 and 9-year-old. As for Romulus, she was transported to the county jail and interviewed, telling investigators, quote, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them." And when officers asked, "Do what?" Allegedly, she responded, "Kill them all." When asked why Romulus called 911, she said she did not call 911, she called the devil. Later telling investigators her children were with the devil.
I know the world's crazy right now and, everybody's going through something, but those kids are innocent and that was wrong.
Again, this investigation is very fresh as you look at the pumps there at the station where those children were discovered on Saturday. We do know now that Romulus, according to a district clerk in Fayette County, Georgia, does have a past criminal history involving a DUI, according to the district clerk's office in Fayette County, as well as drug possession. There were misdemeanors. Those cases had been settled in that particular county. Coming up here in 1 hour, I'm going to tell you why investigators put her hands into a brown bag minutes after they arrested her. That's how they saw her at one point, with a brown bag in the back of a patrol car. I'll have a reason for that, and it's a significant one coming up in 1 hour. That's the very latest here, just north of Angleton in Brazoria County. Mario Diaz, KPRC2 News.
Mario, thank you.
Surveillance footage at the station showed Romulus pumping $56 worth of gas into the car before law enforcement arrived. She put fuel in the tank, waited beside the car, and when officers got there, she let them put her in handcuffs without any fight or reaction. Deputies took her into custody and transported her to the Brazoria County Jail, where she was later questioned. And what Romulus said during that questioning is really what turned this story into a terrible tragedy, into something people couldn't stop talking about.
Investigators, quote, "Instead of them doing it to me, I'm going to do it to them." And when officers asked, "Do what?" Allegedly, she responded, "Kill them all." When asked why Romulus called 911, she said she did not call 911, she called the devil. Later telling investigators her children were with the devil.
She also told them, "You can't take me without taking you." Back at the scene, before they even got her to the jail, deputies said she turned away from them and mumbled that her children were with the devil and dead to me. During the actual jail interview, witnesses described her as paranoid, constantly looking over the door, giving answers that didn't fully connect to the questions she was being asked. At one point, she said she was ready to work, which made no sense to anyone in that room given what just happened. Now, you might be sitting there thinking this sounds like someone who was having a mental breakdown, and that's a fair thing to wonder. But here's what investigators found when they went to her house, and it changes the picture significantly.
This evening, we have new information about the mother accused of shooting 4 of her children Saturday morning. We know she remains in jail this evening. Investigators now say the children were shot inside a car. Afterward, Oninda Romulus drove from her home in Porter to a gas station in Angleton, where she called 911. And new this afternoon, authorities confirm a 5th child was not in that car and is still unaccounted for. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office searched Romulus's home in Porter looking for that child. Gage Golding is live on Spear Valley Lane, just off the Grand Parkway, with what investigators found. Gage.
Well, what they found is a criminal investigation of their own. And before we get into that, I want to say that they came out here looking for a 5th child. Now, her family actually just arrived here at the house minutes ago. They tell me that they don't know about a 5th child. They don't know about this 17-year-old that is supposedly being sought after. That could be the reason why that the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office has not been able to find or locate, as far as we know, this 5th child supposedly involved or could be involved in this incident. But the investigation that Montgomery County now has on their hands is because when they came here looking for this child, when they got inside, what they found is what can only be described as an identity theft operation.
On the same day as the shooting, a separate team executed a search warrant at Romulus's home in Porter. What they found was not the house of a woman who had just snapped under pressure. It was the house of someone running a serious, organized identity theft operation. Spread across the office, bedroom, closet, and kitchen, investigators found 33 Social Security cards in other people's names, 48 ID cards, some with Romulus's own photo but different names on them. They found 16 credit cards with mixed names, 2 U.S. Treasury checks addressed to her home under fake identities, 15 packages of blank checks, plus 2 more stacks sitting out ready to use, printers including an HP DeskJet and an HP Envy Inspire being used to make fake documents, 3 notebooks, and a box of ammunition.
Romelis's family here, as I said, they've been here for the past couple of days, obviously still very much so trying to process this whole situation. This is not a normal situation by any stretch of the imagination. So if you can imagine family members, they were emotional, not wanting to speak on camera at this time, respecting that sort of privacy, if you will, but they did share this, that they're shocked. They have no idea what happened, and the 2 children that lost their lives in this incident, they described them as being the sweetest, nicest, and most innocent kids that you can imagine. Obviously, a lot to unwrap here for investigators, but for this family that's now trying to figure out exactly why, just as we are, guys. We're in Porter, Gage Golding, KPRC 2 News.
This was not someone who had found a few stolen cards somewhere. The printers were actively being used to make fake IDs and fake documents, and investigators found materials at different stages of being made, meaning she was producing them regularly. They also towed a car from the driveway as part of the evidence.
And then there was one more thing. Romulus had a 5th child, a 17-year-old, who was not at the scene and was not found anywhere in the house during the search. When law enforcement reached out to her family, they said they did not know where that teenager was. That is a mystery that had not been resolved at the time of reporting. So let us connect what we know, because this is where it all starts to make a different kind of sense. Investigators believe that the bigger house, the finished salon, the roomy car, the land in Haiti, all of the things she was posting about online were paid for with money that came from this fraud operation. The tax preparer was not preparing taxes. She was stealing people's identities, printing fake documents, and using those to access money that did not belong to her. That was her real business. And based on her own statements to investigators and the things she had been posting on social media, her children had started to feel like they were getting in the way of that business. She had put up posts about not letting her kids stop her life and had complained online about being drained and irritated. She had told investigators that her children were a burden and that she had things to do. Put that next to a fraud operation running out of her home office, and the picture of what was building up inside that house starts to come into focus. The people who lived on Romulus's street in Porter barely knew her. She had only been in that neighborhood for a few months, and most of them had never even spoken to her. But one neighbor remembered the kids.
Always waves and we tell him hi, and they come back by, and I have a little Yorkie, and sometimes she'll stop and ask if she can pet the puppy. Just seeing them Friday, and they were happy and on their way telling us hi and bye, and figuring I would see them again Monday afternoon.
She had seen those kids the Friday before the shooting and figured she would see them again that Monday. That is the piece of this story that hits different from everything else, because the neighbor saw nothing wrong. No shouting from that house or signs of trouble or any reason to be worried. After the arrest, people who knew Romulus online started defending her right away. They said she was a good mother who took care of her children, that she had moved to Houston looking for something better, that this did not match the person they knew. Some of those responses felt real, like people who were genuinely shocked and could not make sense of what they were hearing. Then there was another group of people who went in a completely different direction with it. Some blamed Haitian witchcraft, some blamed mental illness without knowing any of the facts. Some tried to make it about where she was from, about her culture, about being an immigrant, none of which had anything to do with what the evidence actually showed. That kind of talk was just people filling in gaps with their own assumptions and fears rather than looking at what was actually in front of them. What was actually in front of them was a woman who had been building a fake version of her life for years, running an identity fraud operation out of her house, posting about wealth and peace and success while 4 children depended on her, and she grew more and more resentful of the fact that they were there. By December of 2025, prosecutors had formally charged her with 2 counts of capital murder. They also signaled that they were looking at seeking the death penalty depending on how her mental competency evaluation came back. She was sitting in isolation, watched around the clock while the fraud investigation ran separately alongside the murder case. Some people watching this case brought up Andrea Yates, the Houston mother who drowned her 5 children in 2001 while going through severe psychosis. Yates also talked about Satan and ended up being found not guilty by reason of insanity. The surface similarities are real: a mother, multiple children, devil talk. But Yates had years of documented mental illness and hospitalizations backing up what happened to her mind. Romulus had no such record. What she had was a fraud operation and a carefully managed online image built on top of it, and a pattern of choices that had been building for a long time. Whether that adds up to insanity or something more deliberate is what the courts are going to have to decide. But the thing that keeps pulling people back to this case, the thing that made it land differently than other cases like it, is Ocario. Because this is the same child she carried onto a national television show 12 years earlier, the same little boy she told a judge she wanted to have a father in his life because she knew what it felt like to grow up without one. She sat in that courtroom and said out loud that her son deserved better than what she had been given. And then 12 years later, he was the 13-year-old in the front passenger seat of her car at 4 in the morning with a gunshot wound. That is the part of this story that hits different from everything else. Judge Lauren Lake said that to a young Oninda Romulus back in 2013, talking about baby Ocario and his right to know the truth about where he came from. The judge meant DNA and paternity, but those words carry a different weight now. He deserved the truth and the chance to grow up. Kyle and Treville, the 2 who survived, were released from the hospital and placed into care. They talked to investigators and cooperated with the case. Whatever they said about what happened inside that car, it has not been made public. As of this video, Oninda Romulus is sitting in Brazoria County Jail with a $14 million bond and capital murder charges over her head. She has since given a jailhouse interview flipping the whole story, claiming her oldest son had a psychotic episode that night, grabbed her guns, and was the one who did it. Prosecutors have her on record saying "kill them all" the morning she was arrested. They have the house full of stolen identities. They have 2 children who watched it happen and lived to talk about it, and a fraud investigation still being built that could bring more charges on top of everything else.
Barred the Porter mother accused of shooting her 4 kids and killing 2 of them from speaking to the press any further.
That's right. The judge issued an order which also prevents the attorneys involved from speaking publicly about Oninda Romulus' case. KPRC2's Jaewon Jung was the only reporter in the courtroom. She's joining us live outside the Brazoria County Courthouse, Jaewon, with why the judge says this order was necessary.
Well, Lisa and Keith, the judge says that this case has already received a lot of attention and this order is critical to preserve a fair trial. Attorneys for Oninda Romulus say they were blindsided when she did a recent interview from jail with another media outlet. 31-year-old Oninda Romulus walking out of a Brazoria County courtroom Tuesday afternoon in shackles and escorted by bailiffs. Just minutes prior, a judge ordered the Porter mom to stop speaking publicly about her murder case. Last October, investigators say Romulus called 911 after pulling into a gas station in Angleton near FM 521 and 288. When deputies arrived, they say her 4 kids were found with gunshot wounds, 2 of them found dead. This was a video posted on Romulus' Instagram page just weeks prior to the shooting. KPRC2 obtained a copy of the protective and restrictive order signed by the judge on Tuesday afternoon. In it, the judge orders not only Romulus to stop speaking to the press, but also attorneys and any parties are barred as well. The order cites the substantial publicity of the case. The judge looked Romulus in the eye, telling her this order is to, quote, protect your interest. Romulus was quiet and appeared nervous in court today. Her trial date was tentatively moved to August. We're live in Angleton tonight. Jaewon Jung, KPRC2 News.
The competency evaluation will decide whether the death penalty is even on the table. Her father in Georgia told the media the family was still trying to make sense of all of it. And honestly, that might be the most real thing anyone said about this whole situation. Some things you cannot make sense of. You just have to look at what happened, sit with how bad it is, and wait for whatever comes next in that courtroom. What do you think about this case? Do you think Oninda was really hearing voices, or it was all an act? Let me know in the comments section. Also, click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this. See you in the next one.